What's going on? You're watching NFL Daily by Chat Sports. I'm Mitchell Renz. That's Tom Downey. And if you're stuck at home, just like us, luckily, we're going to be cranking out a whole bunch of videos the entire time that we're home. Next 2 weeks, the entire offseason. If you don't ever want to get bored, click subscribe, turn on the notifications so you know every single time that we go live. All right, Tom, let's talk about some news that came across today, the latest on the NFL draft, because the report right now is they plan to stick with the April 23rd to 25th deadline here. What says you about this?
Well, there's a lot of complications being caused by the reality of the world that we live in right now as it comes to the NFL draft. I am not surprised that NFL GMs and player personnel and the decision makers want this pushed back. They're not having an easy time getting player physicals. Even the normal accustomed things such as, testing and pro days, those are all canceled or pushed back indefinitely, and they're pretty much all canceled at this point. They're not able to bring players in for the normal pre-draft meetings. So that's the key thing when it comes to the NFL draft. That's why GMs want it pushed back. The NFL, they covet information. They love having everything they could possibly know.
A lot of money on these players.
Exactly. They want to have everything they could possibly know about a prospect before they pick them, and there's a lot of unknown. So that's going to negatively impact a variety of players. Players with off-the-field issues, players with medical issues. Those guys I think you will see slide. And I think that's going to cause some impact if they don't end up delaying it. So the NFL really wants to go forward as planned with this, and I think they're just going to kind of force it on through despite some potential team objections here.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but I'll be honest, I wouldn't be upset if they did push it back. It gives us more topics to talk about here on NFL Daily. So also, Tom, we did learn a little bit of more news about how now teams have to shut down their facilities because of the Big C impact. And for those of you that are new to our channel, we have to say the Big C because YouTube thinks that y'all are a little bit too sensitive to hear the actual word. So Raj Goodell, he ordered all teams to shut down their training facilities at 6 p.m. local time. So that's local time Eastern, Central, Pacific. You just got to be done by 6 o'clock. Now, this also, recesses. They're going to recess it on April 8th when they can reopen. Dom, what else do you think about this? I mean, do you really think that something like this maybe could get the NFL draft shifted back?
Well, I mean, I think from just a planning perspective, you want your front office to be together as you go through a draft plan. Like, if this gets pushed back to when the NFL draft is, normally those events for the draft itself, the war rooms, those are held at team facilities. That's a complication right there. Now, part of this was that the NFL wanted an even playing field. Some states, some cities, you're allowed to be operating. Others, like here in Dallas, we're working from home right now. So you wanted an even playing field. And I do think this is going to end up being the case, by the way. I would not be surprised if a team tries to circumvent this thing and gets caught doing it.
Interesting. I thought that's not the circum word I thought you were going to go with. I'm
going to
be
be 100% honest with
you. Going to be 100% honest with you, Tom. I'm stuck at home. It's been an interesting time here by myself. So I got a question for everyone watching, okay? Should the NFL draft be pushed back? Type Y for yes, type N for no. For those of you that are watching this on YouTube, you might get hit with an ad break. While the ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down because I'm going to make this the pinned comment on today's video. Should the NFL draft be pushed back? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. All right, Tom, we talked about this, or you talked about this yesterday on NFL Daily. The Panthers, they released Cam Newton, and now ESPN, you're seeing all these other places that I don't recommend watching because here at Chat Sports, we're free. Subscribe. But now we're going to talk about where the heck Cam Newton could end up going. And if you guys who are in the comments want to weigh in, where's Cam Newton going to be playing? Because this is an interesting topic.
Yeah, I don't have a great feel for where Newton ends up just because of the reality of the situation that we've mentioned before. Yes, he took and passed the physical. Yeah. He was never going to not pass that physical. NFL teams want their doctors or a doctor they trust and know to do the physical.
Minus
so because of the uncertainty around Cam Newton, I think it's negatively impacted him. If we were not in the situation we were in right now and we were able to do the full medical tests, all of that, he would have been traded. I think because of that, Newton was released by the Panthers. There was so much uncertainty. NFL teams didn't want to gamble. Someone will end up picking him up. I fully expect that. I just don't have a great feel for who it's going to be. You could maybe see Cam Newton take a path of, I'm going to wait and wait and wait. And then if there's an injury in camp or a rookie isn't developing as hope because of the limited potential practice time we could be facing later on in the season or preseason or off season, I think you might see Newton try and wait a little bit, unless a team like the Patriots or Chargers expresses interest quickly.
So where's Cam Newton going to play this year? I put together 5 destinations. So, Tom, please feel free to weigh in on what you think of these 5 teams.
They suck.
I also think a team like the Denver Broncos could be pretty interesting in here.
Kidding.
We got the Jags, the Chargers, the Dolphins, Pats, Redskins. I think all these teams, whether they tell you or not, are going to be looking for quarterback. However, I just think the Jags make the most sense.
I think the Jags makes the most sense in terms of potential path to early playing time. I don't think they're going to go quarterback early. I think Newton, if healthy, could potentially beat out a Gardner Minshew type. I think the Chargers, in terms of best fit for Cam, I think they're number one. Just because we've seen Anthony Lynn express interest in having a mobile quarterback. I think that could be valuable for him. I think he'd be a good fit on there. I think the Jags and Chargers are the 2 best fits. The rest of those options, it's like, if maybe the quarterback goes down, maybe Miami, if they take 2, but they have Fitzpatrick. The Patriots, they haven't shown much interest there. I don't think the Redskins, frankly, are a great fit either.
So where will Cam Newton play in 2020? I see Tony Holder. He said Cam to Miami doesn't make any sense. We see the Dolphins in there from Thunder Lightning. Ramon Villa, he says the Chargers. But then we got another Chargers from Ramon. Philly J says the Patriots. And then, of course, you're always going to get that XFL or CFL. Let us know where Cam Newton is going to play in 2020. If you are a Panthers fan or if you're a fan of any NFL team, luckily for you, we got a pretty awesome deal going on right now. So go to chatsports.com/NFL jersey, your favorite player, your favorite team, jerseys. And if you use promo code SPROUT, Sprout, 25% off. So for some reason, if you forget, hey, what is that link again to get me that NFL jersey? Don't worry. I got you covered. Go in the comments, go in the description. Then all you got to do is click on it. Again, it's NFL jerseys. Favorite player, favorite teams, chatsports.com/NFL jersey. That Josh Jacob one, Tom, send that to me, okay? Get it to me. I expect it by the time we go back into the office. Deal?
No.
You guys all heard him say yes. All right, we're going to continue to talk about the Raiders now. Let's talk about Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, and Tom, I don't know if you saw this, but finally Mariota spoke after signing or agreeing to that 2-year, $17.6 million deal with the Raiders, and he came out and flat out said, this is Derek Carr's team, and I totally understand that. My question to you is, you see the max value, $37.5 million. Do you honestly believe that Mariota thinks that this is Derek Carr's team?
Great question. I think for Mariota, he's never going to say anything otherwise. Mariota handled the Tannehill promotion and his demotion as well as humanly possible. Like, you could not have scripted a better process for Mariota, at least from what we've heard in terms of the way he handled it. So the issue here is that the max value, that is not a contract that you expect and you get unless there is a path in which the Raiders said, you know what? Maybe you do end up getting a chance to be the starter if Derek Carr struggles or whatever. So I think Mariota will publicly say, yeah, this is Derek Carr's team. And he's certainly not going to go behind his back or do anything along those lines. But if Mariota gets the chance, yeah, he's going to try and take that team from Derek Carr if he gets named to the starting job or whatever.
I mean, I'll tell you what, if he does take the job and the Raiders win the Super Bowl, he's going to be a very, very rich man. I'd also be totally okay with it. So how about this question? Will Mariota start a game, okay, just one game for the Raiders this year? Give me a Y for yes and N for no. Tom, what do you think? Then we'll give some shout-outs.
If the Raiders don't make the playoffs, and if that is clear before we get to Week 17, I'm going to go with, yeah, I think Mariota ends up getting a starting nod. But I don't think the Raiders are going to make that potential move until they really have to.
So I see Dakota Kopp says yes. The Ponzik Show, yes. Chris Smith, no. Darnation Campbell, no. Shelley says no. I'm also going to say no because I think that this Raiders team is actually going to prove a lot of people wrong, play a little bit better. Hopefully they go out and get a top receiver in this year's draft. Maybe coming up here in a little bit when we talk about Mel Kiper, they go out and get a top receiver. But you give a Carr a top guy, I think that they end up making the playoffs. All right, Tom, let's dive in now talk about Dak Prescott, okay? We got a little bit of a debate coming up here, and it's going to be around, is Dak overvalued and undervalued? So before we get into that, I really just kind of wanted to show you some of these numbers here, all right? So I saw this debate. It was between Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, and I was like, all right, I'm going to put this on today's show. So before Tom and I give our opinions, we're going to ask for you. So we want you to pick a side here, okay? We want you to type your votes. Dak Prescott is, type your O for overvalued, or type your U for undervalued. So, Tom, how much money is Dak making now? He's gotten tagged. He hasn't gotten signed yet. Let's talk about that, and then we'll dive into this.
Franchise tag is expected to come in around anywhere between 29, I think is the number they ended up settling on, is around $29 million per year. That can still ebb and flow a little bit based on what other contracts happen, but that's about where the franchise tag is going to be for Dak Prescott. So just under 30 in the end.
All right, so Dak Prescott is type your O for overvalued or type your U for undervalued. I'll give some shout outs, then we'll give our opinions here. So Mr. Greer says O, Tribe says U. Seeing some O's. I think an I. Okay, fair. Somebody said fairly valued. That's fair. Ramon says O. Philly J says O. Tom, what says you?
I think that someone who said fairly valued is probably about right. I think I saw a great comment from Jacob Raleigh who says, if you have a franchise quarterback, it's tough to be overvalued. And I think that's exactly right. And Dak certainly is a franchise quarterback. I hope we don't have too many differences of opinion there, but I know we're going to. I see mostly O's. I'm not too surprised there. Quarterback is the most important position. So in a bubble, quarterbacks are all wildly overpaid because they cost so much. But also ask the Chicago Bears how much they would pay for a Dak Prescott. They would pay a ridiculous amount of money to get one of those guys. So if you value the quarterback market as it is, the reality is he probably is a little bit undervalued because that quarterback market, folks, it's about to explode. And I think we forget that the quarterback market goes up and up and up and up every single season. And the salary cap goes up and up every single year. So if you compare it to a contract 2 years ago, yeah, he's wildly overvalued. If you compare it to what the contracts are going to be, if you get Dak done soon, you'll end up saving money in the end. And look, Dak Prescott is better than Jared Goff. That is the reality.
Is that saying a lot?
It is when Jared Goff is making $33 million a year.
See, I don't like this argument, though, Tom.
That's the baseline, though. You have to compare it to what deals have been done.
But see, I don't want to do that. What if we hired some random guy off the street, okay? And just because we're hiring somebody brand new, we're going to pay him more than we're going to pay you or me just because it's the new market? We're making more now than what we made when we first started. That's my argument.
You can't compare people off the street to NFL players. That's the huge difference there. So what I want to do is I want to be aware of, okay, this is what the contract market looks like right now. When Mahomes gets signed, that market is going to explode above $40 million per year. That's insane money. So in a bubble, would I like to make Dak Prescott the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? No, I don't want to do that. But I'd rather make him the highest paid guy now at like 36 than to wait a year, get him in at 38, but he's not the highest paid guy anymore. I'd rather set the market than let the market set me instead.
Well, Tom, he obviously typed his U for undervalued, and let us know, Dak Prescott, overvalued, undervalued. I'm going to say that he's overvalued. I understand that this whole love for Dak Prescott, and you say this whole franchise quarterback thing, but to me, and you can disagree with me, he doesn't play well against good teams. And I know you're always like, Mitch, don't get into that, but go watch the games where he actually has to play teams where he has to win football games. I don't know. I went back, I looked at it, Tom, I watched film. Go watch the Thanksgiving game. That was one of the most brutal games I've ever watched.
Brutal.
Against the Vikings. Dallas, they literally lit up the city in purple. Was it on accident? Maybe. But it was a very hard game to watch. And just, I go back, I look at his entire career.
Did you say the Minnesota game?
The Vikings?
Yeah, Dak balled out that game. What are you talking about?
I don't know. That was an ugly game.
Dak carried the team that game because Zeke couldn't do anything. I think he carried them
because of, statistically, sure.
He was the reason they were in that game. The Buffalo's a good example, but Dak Prescott has won the third most games since he entered the NFL.
Yeah,
Though
but
he
I don't
beats
think
some
he's
good
played
teams
against
along the
good
way.
teams. I mean, he's beating bad teams, in my opinion. So,
aren't that
and we're
many
also going to
bad
look at 2019, okay?
Mhm.
2019, I get it. He threw for 4,900 yards. Am I the only one that thinks that those stats are just, well, inflated?
A little
Because,
bit.
again, the Cowboys, they just had to keep throwing the football, and I think there was a lot of games where they got behind, and I'll use the Buffalo game, for example. Threw for 355 yards. The first 3 quarters of that game, could barely watch it. Like, he has so many games when you go through and look at it, you're like, well, I don't really think this was a good game. The Chicago game. Now, I get it. You get the good, like, because when Dak's on, he looks really good. Then he has those games, you're like, is this really the quarterback that we're going to invest all this money in? I'm not sure. And if you guys want to argue with me, my last point, he's not a top 10 quarterback.
You're a coward for doing this when we're not in the same office.
Well, I've already been slapped too many times in the last
True.
month. So he's not a top 10 quarterback. And I understand the whole market thing. I understand all that. I am not paying somebody that I don't think is a top 10 quarterback, top 5 quarterback money. Sorry.
This is funny to me because we went
Is Dak
through.
Prescott overrated, or I should say overvalued or undervalued? Get your votes in here. Tom and I, we did our discussion. So overvalued, undervalued, let us know in the comments section. All right, Tom, let's dive in now to this real quick. We got our free agency tracker of some deals that went down. I'll let you handle the Cowboys moves.
Dontari Poe has agreed to a deal. Now, Ian Rappaport says the two sides are still finalizing language, but that it's going to get done. That's good enough for me. We don't yet know the contract details. I figure it will come in under Gerald McCoy's deal, or at least around the Gerald McCoy deal. Big thing for me, for those of you that watch the Cowboys Report, you know this fits the Fatties Only brand, baby. Getting a big boy on the interior, something I've coveted for Dallas for years now.
I'll tell you what, if I stay in my home any longer, I might be a Cowboy if it's Fatties Only. All right, let's go to Blake Bell now, Tom. The other move that this Cowboys team made today.
This is going to be a backup tight end option. Blake Bell is a 1-year, $1.7 million deal. He will compete with Dalton Schultz. That's what's going to happen for the Dallas Cowboys. He's not going to replace Blake Jarwin. This is a depth and special team signing on the cheap.
This was a move that I actually really like that the Saints went out and made, that you bring back Janoris Jenkins. So we agreed to that 2-year, $16.75 million extension. So now his contract comes out to 3 years, $27 million, and he's got $10.2 million guaranteed in 2020. If you're a Saints team, you went out, you got Emmanuel Sanders, got better on offense. I think this Jenkins deal makes you a lot better on defense as well. Let's go to a big-name tight end now, shall we? A guy that, man, Cincinnati going to the Jags, it's a rough life here for Tyler Eifert. But 2 years, $15.5 million. I kind of like this for Eifert, even though I think the Jags grossly overpaid for him.
Yeah, I'm exactly on board with you. I think 2 years, $15.5 million was an overpay. I know they drafted Josh Oliver, I believe it was last year, and he's not prepared to go. And Eifert knows what Jay Gruden wants to do on offense, but there's still a very real chance that Tyler Eifert is going to miss time again with injuries. So I think this is a great deal for Eifert. Bit of an overpay for the Jags, though.
This is actually a great deal, I think, for the Minnesota Vikings in terms of just adding a little bit of depth there, trying to fill the shoes of Stephon Diggs. And currently the number wide receiver 2, we think that that's going to end up changing. But 1 year, $1 million for the Vikings. So those were the first 5, I'll say, most notable signings that went down today. So how about this, Tom? We're going to play a game, and I want everyone at home playing a game along with us. So out of those 5 moves, which was the best? If you think it's Poe, type 1. If you think it's Bell, type 2. If you think it's Jenkins, I want you to type 3. If you think it's Tyler Eifert, type 4. Tajae Sharpe, 5. Tom, what was the best move?
I think I haven't seen the contract details for Poe. So from a need perspective, that's my favorite one, but I don't want to speculate on what that deal looks like. So I'll probably go with Janoris Jenkins. I think he was a lot better with the Saints once things got going. They're all in right now. I like the value for Tajae Sharpe, but he's certainly not going to end up being a full-fledged starting receiver in the end for Minnesota. But as a 4, that's good value.
All right, Tom, this is another one that went down. Ndamukong Suh, 1 year, $8 million with the BUCS. He said he wanted to play with defensive coordinator Todd Bowles again. And, yeah, he's definitely not what he used to be, but he does still, I think, bring a little bit of veteran presence there for a Buccaneers defense that definitely needs to build that defense. All right, also, this move went down for the Eagles. They continue to add talent at the cornerback position. Darius Slay, Nickell Robey-Coleman. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I think the Eagles, Tom, are going to edge out the Cowboys this year.
And we already did our top free agency signings. This one has to go on the list. This is unbelievable value for a starting caliber nickel corner. 1 year, 1.3. Why was the rest of the NFL not all over this? I love this move for Philadelphia. This is awesome.
All right, I think this is actually a pretty good deal for the Bengals as well coming in now. We got Von Bell. I mean, I think this is a solid pickup for Cincinnati. You're looking at a team that doesn't spend any money. This offseason, dollar bills, y'all. Making it rain. Absolutely. It's a good move.
They have attacked the secondary with moves. They added Trey Waynes. I thought that was an overpay. I loved the deal to get Mackenzie Alexander as the nickel. Von Bell comes in as a strong safety. You could see Sean Williams play more of a linebacker role now for the Bengals. This is very much a new day for the organization.
So here were some other notable free agent signings that went down today. You saw LaShawn Sims. He went to the Bengals. Anthony Zettel, the Vikings. Alan Bailey, the Falcons. Jermaine Ifedi. Hopefully that first rounder can maybe live up to the hype in Chicago. And then Patrick, my favorite dinosaur, Onwuasor, is back now with the Jets. He pairs up with C.J. Mosley.